Thursday night, I was inducted into the Connecticut High School Coaches Hall of Fame, and some of our people here have heard some of the things that I have in my speech, but I'm a pretty emotional person, so I'm going to read a lot of this speech rather than, because I break down in these things. So even at graduation, I do this. When I have to do the graduation speech, I'm emotional. So so when I stop, I'll be getting my emotions back. Thank you. It's an honor to be selected to be a member of the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame this evening. I offer my sincere congratulations to the other inductees in the class of 2003. Thank you to all the members of the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame and the selection committee. It's a privilege and an honor to be selected. I've attended each of these induction ceremonies from the beginning and never thought that I would be standing here this evening as an inductee. I'm not a Bristol native and did not officially live in Bristol until about 6 years ago. Although since 1972, I've called Bristol Central my home. What a trip it's been. I began coaching wrestling at Bristol Central with Chuck Drury. I volunteered. Chuck was the head coach. He was awarded the head coaching position a couple days before me. We both started teaching in that year, and Tom Monahan was the athletic director. I applied to teach at Bristol Central a couple days after he appointed Chuck the job, and I said to Tom, could I volunteer and coach, since I had grown up in Pennsylvania and I wrestled and so on. And Chuck said, boy, I'd love to have you, because Chuck didn't know anything. And if Chuck was here, I'd tell the same joke I told the other night, but it wasn't a joke. I would do all the technique, and Chuck didn't have any kids at the time, and Chuck would see what I did and then go home and try all those things out on his wife at home. And I'm not sure he ended up with 4 kids out of that, so I'm not really sure how that came about. But both Chuck and Tom taught me a lot about what was important about Bristol athletics, and I certainly owe both of them a great deal. Mr. Monahan passed away this summer, and I will certainly never forget him and his wisdom. I was also very fortunate to work with some great athletic directors. Ms. Joanne Galati is a legend in female sports and a member of this Sports Hall of Fame. Another member of the Hall of Fame is Ralph Papazian. He was very supportive of wrestling and supportive of sports in general and the city of Bristol. Current athletic director John Novakowski allowed me to develop the current middle school wrestling program. It was an idea that I had, again, volunteering and doing some things, and now we have the middle school program in the 3 middle schools that's growing in leaps and bounds. Each of the schools have about 50 kids that are involved in middle school wrestling. All 3 of these athletic directors have supported Bristol Central, allowing us to host, probably for over 20 years, the Class L state championships, and at some time along that way, we hosted the state open for a lot of years. And especially in 1985, when we won the first ever state title in any sport at Bristol Central. And that same year, Coach Pirag won the first girls title. Of course, we won in the winter. He didn't win till the spring. So, I've had many assistants at Bristol Central, but none better than Pat Perenni, a very special person and friend. Pat and I started at Bristol Central in 1972 and have been together ever since. I always say he was the one that tried to keep me under control. He was the sane person on my staff. And I don't know where that word aggressive got in my, because I was always kind of the passive person. I didn't yell. Lance knows that, right? No, that's not true. I was the insane person. Mr. Losey knows that. Pat Perenni is someone who's been with me since 1972. I thank him. Someone else that's been with me, and I mentioned him Thursday, and I'll mention him again, the first wrestler that I ever had at Bristol Central. The first weight class is 98 pounds, and Jerry Daniels, in my first year in 1972, was my first wrestler. And he's been with me ever since, coaching and other things. In fact, every day he's at my house and borrows my pickup truck to go to the dump and throw away leaves. So I don't even know when it's gone. I also owe thanks to my other assistants, Al Mancini, Mike Daniels, Dan Sonstrom, Mike Mitchell, and Brian Archibald, for assisting with me over the years. They're all products of Bristol Central. I'm proud to have coached with each of them. Coach Archibald, who's here tonight, is now in charge. The tradition's in his hands, and there's no pressure to be successful. The teaching staff and coaching staff at Bristol Central has been second to none. They're certainly the best. They have always, especially the teachers, looked out for the wrestlers. Special thanks to Mr. DeSantis, and thanks to each of them for caring. And there's a lot of them, those folks here tonight. Thanks also to my family. I started wrestling in junior high school. My mom and dad let me get started back in Pennsylvania, and they were very supportive throughout my career. My wife Angela, if you looked in the program, if you know anything about Bristol Central, when I became principal, I started this motto: think Central, talk Central, and be Central. I live Central, and I thank her for that. Parents and the student athletes of our program are really what I think coaching is all about. I've made many great relationships with families. The support and so on that they have given to our program has been outstanding. Many are here this evening. I can't thank you enough for that. As for the athletes, wrestlers are a special breed of human being. I said this before, I'll say this again. Who wants to work so hard that you make puddles of sweat on the mat when you stop? Who wants to diet and lose weight just so you can participate and maybe go out and lose? Who wants to get dropped on their head or crunched up into a small package? I don't think this award is about me tonight and the things that I've done, but it's more about the kids who have been in our program. And the things that we've done, we hope, that has made those kids in our program better people. It's about lessons learned and the humbling experiences that each of us working together as a family for a common goal and success. Success in wrestling might be a little different for everyone. We've had state champions, undefeated wrestlers that didn't win a match, but they all participated to the best of their ability, and I think that's all that anyone could ask about any athlete. That's certainly all I've ever asked. I accept this award for each of those athletes. Every athlete that I've ever coached at Bristol Central is part of this award. Others that have helped me along the way to develop Bristol Central and what I think developed Bristol as a town to be respected in the sport of wrestling have been Ron Burns and Rex Hamilton and the Bristol Boys and Girls Club. Myself and a few parents, Steve Spinelli, came to Ronnie many, many years ago with the idea for a youth wrestling program, and it's developed into the premier program in the state of Connecticut for youth wrestling. Thanks to Ronnie and Rex for supporting that dream and making it happen for all the kids in Bristol. Some of the inductees tonight, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about some of them, and I'll go pretty quick here, but it's an honor to have been associated with Dave Mills. He's the consummate professional as far as a coach goes. I admire what he's done for the kids of Bristol and especially Bristol Eastern. Tony Lodovico, he's a very special person to me, since you did hear that I did coach soccer for 4 years in another town. Not knowing anything about soccer, other than coaching youth soccer, I went to Tony a lot for advice, and I went to Tommy Moylan a lot for advice, and I went to Tony Carrier for advice, and I went to Eastern soccer coach Bill Sweet a lot for advice, and Tom Pons, who knew a lot about soccer. Those guys were my tutors, but I also spent many hours at bleachers picking Tony's brain too. So I thank Tony for that. Finally, Callie Granger, she was one of my students. I don't know about that. She reminded me of our class today when we were sitting and they were taking pictures. I attended many of her softball games to support her and her players. Her brother, who she mentioned, wrestled for me. But most of all, I remember the relationship Callie developed with Coach Pirog. It's the same relationship I have watched so many athletes develop with coaches throughout Bristol. Phil and I believe in the same thing. Athletics is about kids and their success and failures. It's not about the coaches. Congratulations to each of those that I mentioned for making me a better coach and a better person. Now our team is a little bit bigger. I have about 1,500 kids at Bristol Central High School. We still set goals. We still promote the idea that Sorry, Bristol Eastern and St. Paul, but we still promote the idea we're the best. I have two great assistant coaches, Martin Semmel and Kevin O'Donnell. They're my assistant principals. Now we don't spend time talking about coaching, but we spend time working with achievement and helping our kids get an advantage. It's no different than coaching. I love what I do. I love my staff. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. As I said, the motto is think central, talk central, and be central. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. Thanks to the committee. Thanks to everyone else. Congratulations.